Last year I did something. It was a little out of the ordinary. I brought my entire team together and I put them in a room. But it wasn't just any room. It was a room that HR might have a few questions about. It had fire, it had gas, it had extremely sharp blades and large heavy equipment. I know what you're thinking, call OSHA, but let me explain. My name is Jessica Beck. I'm the Senior Manager of Reporting and Analytics for Charter Communications. This strange event I'm referring to was a team building event, specifically a cooking class in a commercial grade kitchen. When we first arrived, my whole team was nervous. They didn't know what we would be making it or how we would be making it, and certainly no one professed to feeling comfortable. People might say that hiring and building a successful team of people makes them feel the same way as my team did in this commercial kitchen. In fact, there are a lot of similarities between cooking and team building. I'm here today to help you navigate that process. We'll be going through 4 steps to do so. The first step in the process is planning. You need a vision. In thinking about your menu, you want to start by picking the type of food you're going to make. Let's say an Italian dinner. For your team, you need to think about what is their role in the organization. What is their primary purpose? As you're thinking about the individual items on your menu, you want to think about having a variety of food groups, a variety of flavors, and a variety of textures. Sure, we all love spaghetti and chicken fettuccine, but the two together don't make a well-rounded meal. For your team, and in order to have a well-rounded team, you'll also want a variety of roles, a variety of skill sets, and a variety of backgrounds. As you continue to think about your menu, you're also going to want to think about how the different menu items work together and complement one another. So for our menu today, let's say chicken fettuccine, a green salad with fresh herb vinaigrette, and freshly baked garlic bread. You'll also want to think about how your team members not only work together and complement one another, but how they work with and complement other areas within the organization. Now that we know what we're making, we can move on to putting together our shopping list. We need onions and garlic and basil and chicken and so on. You're also going to put together your list for your team. For every role on your team, put together a list of skills, both tangible and intangible, that make up the ideal candidate. So, do they need technical skills, certain technical skills? Do they need teamwork skills? Do they need communication skills? And don't forget to include personality and team fit as one of the line items on your list. All right, we're done with the planning part. We can move on to the next step in the process, preparing. We're going to take our shopping list and head to the grocery store, or in the case of our team, that's conducting interviews. As you're walking up and down the aisles, picking out your food, be sure to stick to the list. While those handmade fresh tortillas would be absolutely amazing, they're not amazing in our Italian dinner. They don't have a place. They might get tossed in the fridge and forgotten about. We'll just keep them in mind for a future menu. When you're interviewing for your team members, also stick to the list. In fact, take that list we prepared in our first step, the ideal candidate. Numerically score each of your candidates against that list, and then choose those candidates that have the highest score. That way you know you're getting as close to the ideal as possible. Once we get home from the store, it's time to gather up our resources. We need pots and pans, cooking utensils, cutting boards, and so on. In order to gather resources for your team, they'll need tools and equipment. What are the things they're going to use in their day-to-day? For instance, do they need certain computer programs set up before they start? You can then start actually preparing the food. We'll start the water to boil, we'll start chopping and washing ingredients, measuring out ingredients, and getting ready. In order to prepare your team, they need training. What are the skills and knowledge that they're going to need to be successful? We're ready now to move on to the third step in the process, the cooking. First and foremost, remember it takes time. It takes time for the ingredients to cook, and it takes time for the flavors to meld and develop. We don't want raw pasta in our chicken fettuccine. It also takes time for your new team members to get comfortable in their roles. I do have a time-saving tip for you. The more prepared your ingredients are coming into the process, the faster the process will take. So for example, in our chicken fettuccine, If instead of starting with raw chicken, maybe we start with a cooked rotisserie chicken from the grocery store, we're that much closer to our end goal. The same holds true for your team. The more prepared your team members are coming into the process, the faster it'll take them to ramp up. Throughout the cooking process, be sure not to ignore it. Sure, the phone's ringing and somebody needs help with their homework, and you can attend to those things, but you don't want anything to burn or boil over. As team leaders, there are so many things that need our attention on a day-to-day basis, but you always need to keep that pulse on your team. In those unavoidable instances where there are just too many things to do, you can't do it all yourself, in cooking, you leverage the help of a sous chef, somebody that can help take something out of the oven over here while you're finishing the sauce. In your organization, leverage the help of your team members' peers, your peers, and other mentors and leaders. As we all know, it takes a village. Also throughout the process, be sure to clean up as you go. It may seem initially like a great idea, just pile all the dishes in the sink and deal with them later. But you're gonna end up with a really big, daunting, dirty pile of dishes that the longer they sit, the harder they're gonna clean. You're gonna have to soak them for days and use some serious elbow grease to clean them up. Likewise, as issues arise on your team, deal with them as quickly as possible. The longer you let them sit, the harder they're gonna be to resolve. For all the planning and preparation it's taken us to get to this point in the process, there are still those unfortunate times where the unexpected can happen. We could unexpectedly run out of an ingredient, or worse yet, encounter a bad ingredient. In the case of running out of something, see if you can substitute something else in its place. Somebody on your team might quit unexpectedly, or just get pulled into a high priority project that takes precedence over all of their other responsibilities. See if you can get help from other people on the team, or leverage the help of another team until you can go back to the grocery store. In the case of a bad ingredient, first see if you can repurpose it. That sour milk would absolutely ruin our cream sauce, but it will actually shine in baking. It serves the same role as buttermilk. On your team, if you're having troubles with an employee, first see if you can repurpose them into a role where they will be more successful. But at the end of the day, remember, a rotten tomato is a rotten tomato, and you don't want anybody to get botulism from your amazing dinner. The fourth step in the process is the part that I enjoy the most. It's the part that makes all that hard work and planning worthwhile, and that's enjoying. It's that time when you can get family and friends around the table and spend that quality time together. Teams also need quality time, both formal and informal. In fact, schedule regular team meetings. Make sure they get that time together, and also have the occasional team building event. Not only does it give them the time to get to know one another, but it also allows them that forum to share best practices and problem solve. As a leader, be sure to gather feedback throughout this process. Both cooking and team building are this ongoing, iterative process. Hopefully you're not just gonna cook one meal and be done for life. If you instead get that feedback, people can help you not only know where to focus your energies, but they can also help you by sharing best practices and tips that you can take back to the kitchen or to your team. Last but not least, be sure to celebrate. You just made an amazing dinner. That aged Parmesan worked perfectly in the sauce, and those fresh herbs were so good together in that vinaigrette. Also celebrate the success of your team and the individuals and the teamwork that made it happen. I'm happy to report that my team building event was a resounding success. Every single member of my team prepared a gourmet 3-course meal that not only looked good, it actually tasted good too, and they enjoyed the process along the way. And that's because they followed the 4 steps I've given you today: planning, preparing, cooking, and enjoying. I give you this recipe for success to take back to your organizations in hopes that as you're hiring and building your teams going forward, it takes you from a place that feels intimidating, even hazardous, and instead puts you in a place where you feel confident and comfortable. Thank you, and enjoy.